Like, if you weren't interested about Pump, where the fuck have you been? Like, in the last 2 years.
What's up, everybody? It's LG Doucette here, and welcome to the Milk Road Degen podcast, the podcast that's sexier than your favorite alt and probably just as dangerous. Today's guest is Deeze. Somehow we have never spoken, which is unbelievable because I've been following this guy for years and years. He's one of my favorite traders and meta players, and he models his crypto trading on RuneScape tactics, if you can believe it. So we're going to dig into that. We're going to dig into why he's so bullish on Pump, but also why he feels underexposed, how far creator capital markets can actually go, as well as other current metas that he's playing. Maybe he's into poly market and the prediction meta. Maybe he's into Pokemon cards, or maybe he's going to tell us about other nerdy things that we don't know about yet, because I find that Deez is always a couple steps ahead of me, and I want to pick his brain today and understand how he does that. And also, he's going to have to explain to me why he pauses all his crypto activity on Sundays and just watches football all day. I really want to know about that. Before we start, please support the show. YouTube listeners, podcast subscribers, we need that rating. This is a brand new show, so 5-star rating on podcast is great. A comment, a like, anything on YouTube is fantastic. So please smash those buttons. And today's episode is brought to you by HBOX, the token behind Hitbox Games. Their first game actually drops before the token does. Pretty rare in GameFi. So the presale link is down below if you want to take a peek. That's enough from me. Deez is here. What's up, dude?
It's good to finally talk to you. I know you mentioned we've probably known each other for 5 years now, and we haven't actually had an opportunity to have a long conversation. So thanks for having me on, and excited to talk to you about everything that's going on in the market, things I'm seeing, things you're seeing, and what to try to make of all this.
Deez, I figured out one of the spaces that we're on together that you were hosting, and it was the night that Nate from OpenSea was exposed as being an insider trader. So basically, for people that don't know, OpenSea, which still is token coming up, and we'll talk about that. They used to have, I don't know if they still do, they used to have like an NFT art feature section on their website, right? And every day there'd be like a new update of like, this is the new art collection. And when they'd feature it, the price of that art collection would skyrocket naturally. And the guy who was controlling that, Nate, apparently was insider trading it. So he'd buy a bunch of those NFTs a couple hours before, he'd list it, go up, sell, and he was like banking like a couple $1,000 each time, which is insane compared to his share of OpenSea and how much money he would have made if he didn't do that. He's in jail. The guy, that's one of the only crypto people who's ever gone to jail. And Deez, when that hit, you were hosting a space about it, and I hopped on. And Farouk was on there, and I think Peter Jennings was on there. A bunch of us were discussing, and I remember the perspective I gave was let's just relax the witch hunt here for a second. These are just allegations. We don't know the truth, but I was wrong in the end. He was guilty and he's in jail.
Yeah, and I think as of the end of July, they overturned the insider trading conviction.
Oh, so what? He wasn't doing it, or they just dropped the charge? Because he was
not exactly sure. I just remember like a month ago it was on Twitter. It was like a big deal, and I think he made like less than 60 grand or something total. It was crazy.
It was so little.
They wanted to maybe make an example of him because NFTs were front and center at the time, and this was the most obvious, maybe tied to a person's name, tied to his ENS, like very obviously hard to disprove. Like, I think a lot worse stuff was happening just in a slighter, grayer area where, in this scenario, it was so blatant that it kind of got used as an example. Yeah.
And especially, he was like a co-founder or like the first employee at OpenSea.
Was he?
I don't know if he's co-founder, but he was like first couple employees.
It definitely seemed like he had some substantial amount. I mean, even if he had 0.5%, that still, I mean, they raised like a $10 billion valuation during the shortly
It was
after.
so short-sighted for him to do that. And not to say like maybe he's a criminal at heart, like who knows, right? But it's like, I just thought that was so ridiculous. It's not like some of these other crypto criminals, right? Like that Hayden guy who launches all celebrity coins where it's like, that Kanye token, he made like $12 million. It's like, I'm like, okay, well that's worth it. I guess not that you should do that, but that's a real amount of money to at least escape people with or something. I don't know, but making 60K on
60 grand, that's tough.
Yeah, not especially at that time as NFTs were so frothy. You didn't even need to do that. You could just bought.
No, because he had a punk, and like a floor punk was worth over $400,000 at the time. So it's
just
still a head scratcher, but at least maybe there was a appeal that was accepted or conviction was overturned.
Just insane. Well, anyways, it's nice to chat with you again. It's been a long time. These are better conditions. Now we can actually.
That's probably a point in the market that people listening don't even remember. They're like, "Who the fuck is Nate? What do you mean?"
That was a good time.
That dates us.
Every night there, it feels like every week or every night there was like some new drama, and everybody would get on Twitter Spaces to talk about it. And that was like, it was like a big town hall all the time. Now I still feel like we're town hall, but it feels like everybody's got their own little alpha sources and chats and everything. And there's less of like one big everybody get on the spaces and talk kind of thing. Right.
Yeah. Spaces got, for me, I was hosting, for the people who don't know who I am or anything. At one point in 2021 during the summer, I was hosting like 8+ hours of spaces a day, every day. And I probably did it for like 3 months or so. And toward the end, it was just way too repetitive. We were having the same conversations like every day for 8 hours.
What were they? What were the conversations? Just like,
I mean, it was just going back and forth on outrageous fees. Should royalties be enforced or not? Open edition versus not open edition things for art drops. What's the next? Like at the end of the 3 months, it was kind of clear that you couldn't just mint whatever new thing was coming out. We got to a point where you're reading like Giancarlo's newsletter and just looking at all the hot new mints coming out. And for a while, you could just like mint almost everything and make money. And then there became a point like, we'll just say like after Loot. For people who don't remember Loot, it was text on a screen. And this text was certain traits, like think like MMO items, but that were just text. And this shit came out and VCs were talking about how you could have like decentralized MMOs built on top of the traits of Loot. And this shit ripped, to tens of thousands of dollars. And I feel like that maybe was the beginning of the end for like, oh, we're just going to make infinitely free money off NFTs forever.
Here we go. Here they are.
There's a chat room. So one of these traits is called Divine Robes. And one of my friends told me, dude, you got to buy Divine Robes. There's this chat room in a Discord for just people who have Divine Robes. It's full of like the smartest DeFi founders, like the highest signal chat you're ever going to be in. So I bought Divine Robes for like 3 or 4 ETH, and within a week they were selling for 40. And you go in the chat and like people aren't even really talking. Like there's not even a fucking conversation going on. It's just a token gated Discord that like is pretty dead. So yeah, sold the Divine Robes. But that was around the time where Twitter Spaces started going downhill for me. I think that was like September 2021. And eventually it got to the point where I just like stopped hosting them. At least stop hosting them in the sense that I want to bring up 12 or 10 to 12 people from the community and just have them talk. And then I just started doing more of like curated panels or stages with friends on kind of predefined topics. So that way we can at least have like a shorter conversation with some type of framework and not just come in and start talking about, your neighbor's dog taking a shit in the yard and them not cleaning it up. And then the next
it was pandemic too, Deez. It was pandemic. There was
everybody just wanted to talk to people.
People's lives had been derailed. Do you think the market's like a lot smarter now? Like and I'm talking like degen market. Like you, is it mainly guys like you and I have been here for a while and now we know that not to spend 400 ETH on a loot thing at the peak? You know what I mean? Like, is it smarter or are we stupider because there's pump fund now?
I mean, maybe smarter on the higher end side of things, like smarter on buying things that cost $50,000+ because we're pricing it in ETH and 1 ETH equals 1 ETH, and we're going to ignore the fact that ETH is trading at $4,000 and just say, well, this was 5 ETH before. Why wouldn't it be $20,000 now? I think we're better with that stuff, but I think on the lower end, in terms of like trenches and low price things, I think we're still the same, type of risky animals that we've always been. I don't think there has been as much new money or new traders entering this cycle as last cycle. Feel like last cycle was still a better onboarding event. So I guess you could argue in that regard that there is a little bit, more overall intelligence in the market. But I think in general, on like the sub 100K, sub 500K, sub 1 mil market cap shit coins, it's still a bunch of like degenerate people with low time preferences trying to sell something within 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 30 minutes. and just getting like rinsed by more sophisticated traders. So I don't know. I think on the higher end, we've definitely learned our lessons. I've definitely learned my lessons, and other people I know who used to buy higher end things have learned their lessons. So I can at least say with more certainty that we're not getting too crazy there. I think like punk price is a good barometer of like how much are we willing to spend on a high end thing, and I think right now it's like $200,000 or something around there. So it's pretty good price. Like it was 50 or 75 grand not that long ago, but it's not quite at that extreme of last cycle where it was like closer to $500,000.
Do you think it'll like? Do you think it got that high because NFTs were such a big piece of last cycle as well, right? Like, yeah,
it got high for like a mix of reasons. The big catalysts back then were Visa bought a punk, and that was like the first. I don't know if you remember when Visa bought the punk, but that was the catalyst we had for the all-time high run.
Dude, I was trying to take vacation, man. I was with like my in-laws, and we were trying to be at the cottage, and that was like I remember Visa bought a punk. Apes are dropping mutants, like in the same like sentence almost, and it was like
so it was like the end of August, right? Like that this happened, and we got the news. We were in an Uber to the airport, and we were gonna fly to Florida to visit a friend.
Yeah,
and on our way, it's like 7 a.m. I see the notification on my phone. Hey, you could, Visa just bought a punk, and I'm telling my wife, we need to go home. Like, I don't have the ledgers on me. I can't trade any of our punks. Like, we could probably make $1 million right now. Like, not even shitting you. Like, I think we can make $1 million right now. And my wife's like, we haven't been on vacation all year. Like, you've been grinding. Like, let's just enjoy this vacation. And, like,
you always say that. You always say shit like that. Because at the time it was probably true. It's been that NFT run. There was always like, I need to run to my computer.
Honestly, it was every day.
Yeah.
It was every day.
Constant.
So, and at the time, I did want a break. So I was like, okay, like we'll go for 3 days. And I won't touch these. And of course, like they go from, I don't know, like 50 ETH to 140 ETH. They're like $500,000. I can't sell or trade in any of mine. And like during this, like Fidenzas went to over $500,000, and I had to sell some of those. And like I'm just on the beach in Destin, Florida, visiting a friend, just looking at my phone, looking at things I can't touch for like 3 more days, wondering if I just go home now. But it was a good trip. At the end of the day, we got home. Prices were down from the peak, but we sold a couple things. And then I took the biggest loss I ever took on a punk because I got stupid. This is one of those scenarios where like I missed out on the free money, and then I tried to force something. So I bought like a punk for 144 ETH when that was close to the floor. And then by the end of the year, I sold it for like 88. So, I took over like a 50, like $200,000+ loss on this thing. And it was definitely like a good earlier lesson. Like I think that might have been like only the 3rd or 4th time I've learned that lesson. And I've probably learned that lesson, closer to 10 times now since, where you see something obvious and you either like miss sizing into it, or you just miss it completely. Like, it's obvious, so you should own some, but you don't buy enough. Or it's obvious and you miss it, so you're like looking for the next obvious thing to bet even more on because you feel like you got to make up for the fact you missed it. And it was one of those where I was like, well, I just missed this giant run that I knew was free money, but like now that I'm home, I think it's going to keep running because I'm a biased piece of shit. I'm super biased and I want to make more money. I'm greedy. So I'm like, boom, fire off on this punk. And then like within a week, I regretted it. It might've been like within 3 days, I knew, fuck, like, but I couldn't sell it. And I ended up holding on to it for like 3 months and taking a big loss. But what's the term for that? Because it's not really like a revenge trade after a loss, but it's like the FOMO trade. Yeah, right? It's more of like a FOMO trade. It's more of the
you convince yourself.
I knew this thing was obvious and could have made a bunch of money, so I'm gonna like tell myself the next thing I see is the same amount of obvious, and it really never is. It's only like those obvious setups don't come back to back. Normally, it's in my experience, it takes like some time, like 3 months or 6 months or something for something new and obvious to come up. It's not just like one day later after some obvious thing makes everybody millions of dollars, like, oh, the next obvious thing. And very rarely is the next obvious thing the most like the obvious thing that just happened. Like, it's not like I bought another
it's not the
risky
double,
collection. It was like, no, I bought the top of punks. Wasn't even like I told myself, well, no, I'm gonna buy this next thing because Deez is gonna add a Bored Ape to their, you know, fund too or something. Like, no, I was like, oh, I'm gonna buy punk.
They're gonna add a cool cat. And then a Moonbird,
cool toads,
and MasterCard's buying there's but you know, back then there's so much weird information that too, though. There's always those psyop informations, man. Like American Express is gonna start a Fidenza treasury or some shit.
Now we're not much different. I mean, now it's just DATs. It's like we got DATs. We got MicroStrategy showing people that, you know, you can just somehow sell a stock at a premium to just owning crypto, and people will pay that premium because fuck it. And then you see it for ETH. You're seeing it for Solana. There's rumors of NFT DATs.
Avalanche, bro.
Yeah, I mean, there's anything can have a DAT.
Avalanche treasury.
Pump Dat is like the best one just because the name sounds like Pump Dat. It's like, well, yeah, Pump Dat.
All right, a quick break to talk about Hitbox Games and their token HBOX, which is on presale right now. So this token basically powers all of their games. The first of which is Sword of Blood, which has already been tested by like 50,000 players and has had a pretty good retention rate of like 41%. And the game is actually out before the token comes out. So you're kind of de-risking. You go try the game before you decide to buy this token. But it launches very soon, and there's only 50 million tokens that are going to be live at launch. And there's a long vesting for the investors and the original people in there to kind of reduce that sell pressure. So the pre-sale is on now. Go to milkroad.com/swords of blood to support them and support the show. That stuff is so easy to sell for the people that are creating those treasuries, man. Because MicroStrategy is just the obvious example. They're like, listen, this guy's been doing this for a couple years. Look how much he's up. Bitcoin's a future. And then like, but you know what hasn't run? Fucking Solana, Avalanche. You know what I mean? No, but really, like it just trickles down. And then they bring up that chart that's like, here's the cycle. You know, they're like Bitcoin, ETH, alts. You know, and everyone's like, wow, like okay, here you go. $10 billion for your Solana DAT.
My MO is that I'm just never, ever buying any of the DAT shit. I will just buy the underlying thing that we know the DAT is going to buy, and I will just happily make money on that. And maybe I'm not going to make 5x or 3x, but like if the DATs want to pump ETH 2x or they want to pump Solana 2x, like I'm very happy to size into that, take the money and be like, all right, sell it. Like I don't want to buy any of the DATs. I feel like that's a narrative I've seen come up so much this year. And like,
we had NFT treasuries and tokenized treasuries and all that kind of, and obviously the Solana is very different than an NFT treasury, right? But it's still like, you can just buy the asset. Just buy the asset.
Yeah, these assets are extremely liquid. I mean, for most people listening to this, you can buy as much Bitcoin, ETH, Solana as you want on the fucking liquid markets. Like, why would you?
Yeah, you don't need,
unless you just want to speculate on the premium, which I guess is fine. But that's like saying, you know, I know I'm a fucking moron, but I hope there's even bigger fucking morons in the future who haven't found this yet and are willing to pay the premium. Which I just, I don't love that type of thesis.
What about this punk strategy thing?
So punk strategy is interesting. This is another one I mid-curved. So for the people who have no idea what the fuck punk strategy is, we'll preface this by saying it is an experiment by a friend whose name is Adam or Rhinotic, and he runs I guess we'll call it a company or a dev shop or whatever, but they're called TokenWorks. And what they do is like fun experiments. I was saying that before I got into punk strategy, I wanted to talk about what TokenWorks was, which is the parent company or developer that made punk strategy. But TokenWorks is a company, or, you know, it's a developer. It's a guy named Adam or Rhinotic who messes around with experimental like on-chain protocols. And he's done a few things before this one. Like he's done Funding Works, which is a way for people to fund people they like while giving them the option to like burn a soulbound NFT to get their money back. And he's done like dozens of other on-chain experiments. Punk strategy is his latest on-chain experiment, which is the perpetual punk machine. It is we'll just say it's a shitcoin because technically it is. It's an ERC20 token that allows people. Okay, let me go back to the beginning. The ERC20 token that has a high fee. It's a 10% fee on all trades. This fee goes into the contract and like accumulates Ethereum to buy punks. So the more volume that happens on this punk strategy instrument, the more money it makes on fees to capture more ETH to buy more punks. So when it gets enough ETH to buy the cheapest floor punk, and it's important to note this works because the crypto punks, like they're a smart contract marketplace. It's just you're able to interact with it on chain. You don't need any front end or anything crazy. So they basically have an automated strategy where these fees are accumulating ETH to buy punks. When they get a punk, currently right now they're listing it 20% higher. And if that punk sells, they're taking the ETH from the sale, buying the token, the punk strategy token, and burning it, effectively making the token deflationary and in theory driving value to the tokens that aren't burnt. So right now they've bought, I think, 7 punks and they've sold 1, so they have 6. Right. And you can kind of see by the chart here, kind of a crazy chart. It was quiet for the first few days, maybe the first week. It was pretty quiet. It's important to note on like day 1, there was a bug in the code and some white hats found it before anybody exploited it. But basically there would have been a way to like loop and buy, like you could sell punks to it at a low price and then like buy it back or something with like a looping mechanism that would have effectively allowed any malicious person to drain the contract. So the first couple of days, like I think people were a little spooked because it got fixed like before it got compromised. So there was no loss or anything, but people were a little like, hey, let me like sit back and look at this and make sure that that doesn't happen again, because it would be kind of devastating for the protocol to get exploited this early. And after a week or so, this combination of, we were just in Toledo for a big art event, and in Toledo, there was a punks brunch. Adam from TokenWorks was also in Toledo, and there was a big, I'd say like 200 plus collectors who made it out to Toledo for a mixture of like the Sam Spratt event and this Infinite Images gallery that opened, or not opened, but was celebrated. So combination of that and like all my punk chats going crazy talking about this token kind of have given it a lot of attention over the last week, and it blew up, going from like nothing to almost 40 million market cap. And then now it's at like 11. So for me, I'm more curious on like, does the volume sustain? Because this mechanism doesn't really care about the price of the underlying token. It just cares about the fees that it's getting from volume. So if there's high volume, it's going to accumulate a bunch of fees to buy more punks. But if there's low volume, then it kind of stagnates out, and then
the project just dies. Yeah.
Well, what can happen is like right now, Adam still has control of the contract in the sense that he can tweak like what these punks are listed at. So if people did want to like sell at a different price and it did stagnate badly, I think that something would happen where like it's hard to say this token is worth less than what the punks it's holding are, because it could just liquidate those punks, and like there could be some type of way to get that value back. It's not like this token shouldn't go to 0 in theory, in my head, because it does have the underlying punks as assets that it could liquidate for a future like redemption or buyout or something. But it is interesting.
It still has the value.
Yeah, it is a really interesting experiment. Like, can enough volume happen to kind of create this perpetual motion machine of, if punks go up 20%, this thing sells all the punks, buys all the token price goes up, makes a bunch of money off the fees, buys more punks, etc. Like if you imagine this being out in 2021 when Visa bought a punk, or even, I mean, not even 2 months ago, there was like a 60 punk sweep. I don't know if you remember that, but there was like a 10-minute span where like 60 punks went. Well, in that world, all of these punks that are listed would sell, and all those fees.
So then that token price goes berserk because it's getting burned. He's getting bought back to the tune of like whatever it is, 6 punks that it has.
Yes.
So
like
$2 million
in a world where a sweep like that happens, this thing can be really interesting.
Right.
I think in the current world that we're in this like specific week or so that it's been out, the punks market's been pretty stagnant. This has been the most exciting thing happening in the punks market. So I think it's going to be curious to see over time, like as Punk's market dynamics changes, how do people trade this token? Because I don't think like you want to buy this token if you're just trying to bet on the price of floor punks. You want to buy this token more off like the volume. I think that you think you want to buy this token if you think the volume traded of this token is going to remain medium or high. And if there is a punk sweep, you're getting kind of like, I think like reflexive price upside. You know, if someone comes and blasts the punk's floor and it goes up 20%, cool, you made 20%. Well, like this token will probably triple maybe at current price, but you got to also be ready to sell it. Like it's going to triple, but then everybody who's holding it is going to be like, oh shit, I could triple my money. Like, so then you also have to worry about execution. If you're holding this token, there might be a little bit of a race to sell into that pump if that event happens. So that's something else to keep in mind, where like you could be right about the direction of the token. You could be right on price, whatever. But if you don't execute the trade at the right time and other people do who hold the token, then you're not going to realize the gain that you could. But I think it's really interesting. It's definitely one of the more interesting like on-chain strategies that we've seen. And it's only, I think, able to happen because of Uniswap v4, which is a pretty relatively new development like in the last year. So that's one thing that's interesting with what Adam does is he's been using the Uniswap v4 hooks to incorporate different things into what he's building that like this shit wasn't possible last cycle or 2 years ago.
What's in the Uniswap v4 that he can use for this?
So I'm definitely the opposite of a dev, but the hooks basically allow people to customize and extend how liquidity pools work. So it's like an external smart contract that alters how certain liquidity pools can work. So it's like you're able to like move things around and do more of this fee stuff and like buying of assets in the pool. I think
you can automate, like it's easier to kind of automate this kind of thing that this system that he's built basically.
Yeah, it's like just adding way more optionality for devs to like build on top of existing liquidity pools is kind of how I understand it. But I'm not a dev. I literally like failed computer science and switched my major in college. For people listening, like if you want to learn more about the Uniswap v4 hooks, just Google it. They have really good docs.
About. You're way beyond the curve of the show.
Hey man, if anyone in here is a dev who wants to learn about the hooks, like they have nice docs. Okay, like I'll say that.
I want to ask
shout
you,
out Punk Strategy.
Thanks for explaining that to us, because something I noticed over the weekend, but I was too busy watching terrible Pump Fun streams to take note.
We should talk about those next.
I should have bought the Punk Strategy token at the start of the weekend and then just done something else
and then,
my whole weekend.
Because
I've been telling everybody about this, that I spent the whole weekend just trying to catch these YouTubers coming over to Pump.
Yeah.
And seeing if their token could run or not. And it was a waste of fucking time, man. These people were like, oh, what do you mean? It was just them talking to like the trench chat, which was just like some of the worst content I've ever seen in the space. And every single YouTuber was like, what do you mean lock the token? What do you mean update the DEX? And then it'd be them like calling their crypto friend, be like, they're saying you got to update the DEX. How do I do that? It was just fucking terrible. And all their tokens went to shit anyway. All Pump tokens fucking went to shit now. But especially the native streamer guys would come on and they'd be like, oh, that'd be cute. And then they'd stream. And one guy, like that Fufu guy, was streaming himself sleeping after he played for a while. And then his token's down anyways.
So he was one of the first names I recognized just because Bunny Fufu is a like old League of Legends pro. For the people who don't know, I used to be really into competitive gaming and spent better part of a decade caring about that deeply. And I missed when he launched the token until it was like 5 mil because I was sleeping in or not paying attention. I came out and like, there's no way I'm paying 5 mil for a Bunny Fufu token. Like this is we're going to see every League of Legends streamer that I remember from 10 years ago come out of the woodwork and try to do this. But I saw like the Sway was another one. Like this guy, they were saying Phase Sway, but his name on Twitter is not Phase Sway. It's SG Sway. He has way too many followers on YouTube and all other platforms. And this token, didn't even crack 3 mil, and now it's at 400K. And a lot of this goes back to what I just talked about with Punk Strategy. The price of the token in these scenarios is more or less irrelevant. It's just volume. they don't care about, you shouldn't care about the price if you're trying, you just want volume to happen. So you want there to be a high churn. But I think what's going to happen for all of these is like volume spikes in the first hour. Cause there's, how many people do you think are sitting here on this page looking at new streams? Like it's probably over 500 easily. Like there's well over 500 degens sitting here looking at this.
Oh, for sure. Oh yeah. And I think
thousands, right? And
I think people sniping these, any notable streamer who's come on, the token is instantly a million. Like there's no, you know, even Bunny Fufu, it's like instantly people like it takes 2 seconds to see the followers. And most of these tokens are being sniped, but I think the return for snipers of pretty much all these tokens is still big enough on the Bunny Fufus.
Oh, for sure.
You know,
but for like the average person trying to catch these, like the chance of you, first of all, you have to like sit here like you did all weekend and be looking at the new shit coming out. It's like normally what I was doing is I was just going to the live streams tab on the left, and then
I just want to point out this. I was not looking at this screen. I think I was using like Mobi and a few other tools to actually. I was waiting to see like some kind of indicators. I cannot stare at this fucking screen all day.
No,
There's no way.
Gives a jump scare. Like
I just cannot. I could not, and I can't. I watched. Anyways, go on.
But I was spending like a good amount of time in the live streams tab just because I was watching these, trying to figure out, like, you know, full disclosure, we're gonna look at some tokens here. I think the only one I still own right now is Kind, which is at like 23 million right there. But they're basically giving the fees to people who need it. They like just will show them finding people with 0 viewers on stream and then donating like thousands of dollars. So it's kind of wholesome.
But that guy, that person who does that he's also they're also a TikToker that's been doing that.
Been doing it for like multiple years. It wasn't like they just had, that's why I bought it. Cause it was like
this streamer was different. Streamers started kind of copying that from scratch. And then they did the Kai Cenat stuff, which I think kind of blew this thing through the roof to start. But the Kind people have been at this for a while.
Yeah, that was kind of the thesis of like how many of these people have actually been doing their shtick since, like, well, I don't want to say shtick because I mean this is a nice thing to do, but just like how many people have actually been doing this before coming to this versus like we saw a guy the other day who was like a practice squad NFL player who made a pump stream who said he was going to use the fees to go to like NFL games and do shit. And then like obviously the, you know, that token's at 0 and he hasn't streamed since the first day. And there's going to be like, I think a lot more stuff like that. So I'm somebody who just wants to own, like, pump the token itself because the quote unquote Ponzi-nomics of pump are just too strong. They're taking good fees on the trading of all this garbage that's going to go to 0, and they're buying back their own fucking token, which is not going to 0. So I would rather own the token that is getting a cut of all the shit going to 0 and buying back itself rather than any of this stuff. Granted, you know, I'm not going to hit 100x on pump, but I don't need to worry about trying to sell it at the right time. I don't need to worry about sitting here and watching Alex Becker sit in front of a fucking Lamborghini and try to make money. So I saw his stream was up when you scrolled by.
Yeah. Is that him?
Yes.
Is that what he looks like?
Yes.
That's the craziest part of crypto is finding out what people actually look like.
I mean, he's been streaming on he's been doxxed on YouTube for like 5+ years. But yeah,
people are always way older or way younger than I think they will be in crypto. There's never no one. I never meet anybody like, and I'm like, that dude's exactly the age I thought.
Well, how old did you think I was?
You're probably the exception. You know, but Deez, I knew because I've like followed you as like an acquaintance for years, and just from like hints in your timeline, I could estimate your age. You know what I mean? But other people like Becker, like I know nothing about this guy. He looks way fucking older than I thought.
Maybe he looks older, but he's actually younger. He just looks older because he spent his life being a vampire on YouTube. It's like some people just age like that. Like it's just that's the beauty of
too many ciggies. The YouTube is this generation's cigarettes, man. Just everything.
Yeah, or like when I think of cigarettes, I think of Diet Coke, like the fridge cigarette meme. Just let me get my fridge cigarette.
Logan, wait. Let's talk about actual investment stuff you were saying. So you from this point, because even something like Pump. And to go back to a point you made earlier about like kind of this FOMO trading. And I told you before we started recording that I've had more questions about getting in on Pump in the last 2 days than the last 2 months, right? or would people getting in on pump now, what point in the timeline are they buying it? And of course, with the caveat that you think it's going to go higher, but are people FOMOing into pump at this point now that it's gone from like 3 billion to 9 billion, basically?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a big amount of FOMO on the timeline. There's a lot of, I feel like, consensus being thrown around now where a couple days ago, even, it wasn't that consensus that pump was a no-brainer to buy. I think right now you're probably buying it a little. It depends on what your time horizon is. Like I'm pretty bullish on pump until the end of the year. I
Why?
assume.
Why? Like what do you, because this, and we haven't even talked about how you spot metas and all that kind of stuff. We spent a lot of time talking about punks. Like, walk me through this of like when they had the token sale to now to what the trajectory is from here, because everybody faded it. The shittier traders like me initially were like, these guys are confused. They don't know what they're doing. Fade it, buy bonk tokens. And now they're the kings. Everyone's saying, look at they're going to reprice to a hyperliquid level soon based on revenue. So where are we at in that timeline of people that want to catch the next leg, even for a 2x, which would be fucking crazy for it to 2x from here? But it could happen.
So my history with pump goes back a little further. They've raised in like Q1 2024, and I turned down the opportunity to be in the raise because I thought the fee at the time was too high. I thought the UI UX was bad and jarring, and I thought that their only moat would be like social and first mover and that it wouldn't stick. And I was just completely wrong on that. So I watched as over a year went by and everything I thought originally was wrong. And we didn't see new competitors come until much later. Like I thought we would see competitors to pump in Q1 of 2024, if not Q2 of 2024. Like it seemed like such an obvious thing. Like, oh, you can just make unruggable tokens that anyone can make. Like that's a great business. Because before pump, for the people who don't know, we would just buy tokens that people would generate and own 100% of. And then we would just hope that they would take some percent of the money we gave them and kept it in a liquidity pool for longer than 10 minutes before rugging us. Like that's what we did. And it was a horrible way to buy new things because you didn't know that there would be liquidity, and half the time you'd just get stuck holding something to zero.
Somehow that system birthed the Pepes and the whiffs. You know, like it's still somehow that still produced
in that system,
these
like,
winners.
Winners came, I think, because there were so few quote unquote legit devs that the ones that were legit, it was easier to spot them and get behind them because it was like, well, they haven't rugged this shit in 3+ months now, and this is worth millions of dollars, and they're still doing what they say they're going to do. Whereas with Pump, it was like, well, anybody can make and rug something, but it's not actually going to rug because there's this guaranteed liquidity layer. So it was a better innovation. And at the time, I just thought we'd see more people copy it faster. It was like clearly to me a no-brainer, but it was such a no-brainer that I thought other people were going to just build competitors. And instead what we saw was more like people building on top of it. You have like the Photon, the Axiom, you have these trading bots that built on top of Pump. And then they've made hundreds of millions of dollars in fees, adding another 1% trading fee on top of the 1% trading fee on Pump. And I'm just sitting here this whole time, like, what people are just paying these fees because, I mean, in people's minds, they don't think a 1% fee is that big. Like, if you're making 2x, why do you care about 1%? But when you're churning millions of dollars in volume, like, I know friends who will trade $1 million to make like $5,000. Like, they don't care. Like, they made $5,000. Well, that model doesn't work on Pump when you're paying 1%. Like, or these trading bots where you're also paying 1%. So
yeah, it's
I
wild
thought there
to
would
me
be
that
a better. This is a long way of me saying that Pump was right and I was wrong, and I've since reshaped how I think about Pump because the other competitors to Pump, like I think Bonk was the biggest one most recently, but they've just waited so long, in my opinion, to do anything. Like they've had almost 2 years now to copy this and make it better, and they waited basically until Pump decided to raise at $4 billion to do anything. And at that point, so you have Pump raising at 4 billion. I thought 4 billion was probably fair, but I didn't want to jump through the hoops to buy the raise. So it comes out hot. It was available for trading pre-launch on hyperliquid. So you had people speculating, but all the speculation was like over the price of 4 billion, right? Nobody was speculating on the pre-market that it was going to trade under what it was raising at, because that would be stupid. Why would the raise fill if people think it's going to fucking trade under right away? So we saw right after people took the free money, if you sized into this raise at 4 billion, you could sell pretty much like a liquid 50% gain immediately. We saw people do that. Pump like Elon. So Elon's the founder, the figurehead. He was pretty clear on what they wanted to do, but he didn't act fast. So people got, I think, antsy and sold their positions. Like he went on ThreadGuy's stream and basically talked about all the buyback stuff, the stream stuff, and laid out what they wanted to do with the money. Because some people were like, oh, they just made another $1 million. They've already made 600 plus million. I mean, they made $1 billion off the raise. They already have, fucking 600 plus million. They're just going to fuck off and take the money. And Elon is like, no, we're not going to do that. We're actually, here's our plan. And the price just stagnated because they didn't immediately execute all of it, the day of the ThreadGuy podcast. And a month go by and they start doing the shit that they talked about. And people are like, wow, like, this is good. Like, I can't believe it's happening. And it's like, well, he came out and said it was going to happen. Like, unless you just think he's a liar, I don't think it's that surprising. So we had a good month to buy this thing under 4 billion. So 4 billion to me, I jokingly tweeted like a chart last month that was just the good/bad shit coin line. And all I did was put a horizontal line at 4 million or 4 billion. I mean, and if it was trading under 4 billion, it's a quote unquote bad token. And if it's trading above 4 billion, it's a quote unquote good token. And yeah, if you put the line there, like you had 2 months basically, or you had the full month to buy it under that line. So if you bought at any point under that line, you got a cheaper deal than the people who just put in $1 billion in the raise. So that's when I started buying some, because I thought, it's kind of silly that this was just raising at 4 and people were really happy to get into it. And now we can buy it for 3 or even 2.5. My problem was, and completely transparent here, I only have like 20% of the amount of pump I want to have, because I got lazy on the second leg down. So I bought my first bit like the end of July. And then in the middle of August, when it was going back up to 4, I didn't want to buy more. I was like, let me just wait. Like, it's going to go back down. It starts going back down. And I was like, yeah, I'm probably just going to get to buy it at 2.5 again. And it literally didn't get to 2.5. I had like a bid sitting on hyperliquid, didn't get filled.
You were so,
yeah, it didn't get filled. And then I didn't. So I tell myself, like, most of the time, if I have something there, I'll just leave it there and just wait.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll just leave it. Like, it'll probably hit it. And then like,
one more little leg down here.
It wasn't going to hit it. And then I should have just capitulated and been like, well, let me just buy what I wanted to buy, whether it's 100 grand or 50 grand, well, let me just add it right here. And I didn't. And then once it went over the good or shit line, I was like, well, I could just buy it now, but I'm going to get like, 35, 40% less. I'll wait. And then once it got to like 5.
No, this is the most important part. I think this is the most important part, Deez, because you've made great trades over the years. This has happened to me many times.
It's recently. Hard to pull the trigger.
It happens to a lot of people. You have your entry price. It doesn't get down to it. And then when it starts to go up, you tell yourself,
it's coming back
well,
down.
I wanted to get it 40% lower than it is now.
Yep.
So your 50 grand you wanted to invest, that should be 75 now, but it's still 50. And I'm going to buy, and I don't want to buy it now. And it's the opposite of what you told yourself for the punk when you bought the punk and you took the loss on it, where you suddenly tell yourself that it's going to come back down. Yeah. You're like, of course it'll come back down, even though you missed your entry. And yet that it's like you wanted that low entry because you thought that it would get close to that and then go off. And that's what's happening. It just didn't touch your entry point. So it's like, how do you buy into something that has already run, but will continue to run?
Yeah, it depends on your like conviction and your time horizon. I think probably the only token I've actually pulled this off really well on outside of like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana is Hype. That was one where I bought originally at like $8, but it wasn't as like much as I wanted. Like at the time, I had it was like Thanksgiving. The day after Thanksgiving is when Hype came out, and I was with my family like away. Like I don't travel with my private keys. It's one of the downsides of being in crypto is you're your own bank, and part of being your own bank is like trying not to lose your bank. So when I travel and stuff, I don't really have my keys on me. But when it came out, it was like $2 to $4, and I didn't get home until it was 8. And I sold like a couple thousand Solana basically and just bought Hype with it. And then it might be hard to get the price outside. You might the price I think is best on their actual website, like the hyperliquid. Even if you're in the US, it'll still let you see the chart. Okay, but basically, I bought double the amount at 15 in US dollars that I bought at 8. Which is like the first time I had ever really done that on a token that wasn't Solana, ETH, or Bitcoin. Because I had thought we're just getting started to this. And even though I feel like really bad because I'm getting half, or I was getting the same amount of tokens for like double the price in dollars, basically. And it felt really bad, but I had enough conviction and hype that I could do it. For whatever reason with Pump, I didn't quite have that same. I think I have this bias, if I'm being completely honest, where I missed the raise with Pump. I had the option to get in at a, good valuation that would be up maybe 30x or something from where it is now. So like I missed it, and then I like somehow give myself an excuse to like miss it again, even though I know it's obvious. So like I'm sized in, but not at the size I want. But I'm not like I'm like biased somewhat based off of me missing the raise. I think like if I had to be honest with myself, that's what I'm telling myself, because I felt similarly at like five-ish valuation, but I didn't do the same thing that I did with Hype. And with Hype, I'm still holding 80% of my Hype bag that I bought between like December and January last year. So I'm still holding most of it. I've sold some on the way up, but Pump, I haven't sold any because I don't feel any. You were talking about it flipping Hype or like the revenue target. Well,
that's what everybody uses.
This. So for me, I would be selling Pump around 15 to 20. That's my like area where I don't think Pump is worth what Hype is worth, because I don't think these revenues are as sticky. Like I think the Pump revenue, it's kind of similar to what we're seeing too with like the cards craze and some of the revenue these card platforms are having. Like I don't think that revenue is nearly as sticky as the hyperliquid revenue. We've seen the hyperliquid revenue for the last basically year just continue to be a very strong revenue producing machine. Whereas Pump, we've seen these ebb and flows of like, there's times where the Pump revenue is way down, and then there's times where it spikes and it's a lot more volatile. So I don't think in my head I can say that these things are equal, even though right now we're looking at Pump 24-hour revenue is bigger than hyperliquid. Pump 7-day revenue is, within 15% or so of hyperliquid. Like I don't think the valuations, like, look at the 30-day revenue. That tells a bit of a different story. So in my head, if we see Pump around like 15 to 20-ish, like fully diluted value, that's where I'm kind of thinking like I need to take good amount of chips off the table here. That being said, the Pump revenue being so volatile works in the opposite way, where we could have a big onboarding event and this, flips hyperliquid for 7 days. And then in that type of mania, you might get that repricing where this does go to 15 or 20. And that's where I would be like more looking to sell than trying to buy and hit another 2x. So if I was trying to buy this today, I'm the type of person where I cannot buy something that has a chart that looks like this, where it just went from like 4.8 to 8.8 in one green motion. Like I would wait for some type of dip, whether it's 25% dip off a local top. Like I'm always looking for some type of deal. So I would at least have a little bit of patience. Like I wouldn't be listening to this tomorrow and just rushing to fire a slug in on my computer, unless there is a little bit of a pullback. Like if I was just going to throw a number out, like somewhere around 7 or like 6.5 would be maybe where I would try to start building a position for the next leg. Because you have to think like in terms of risk reward. If I'm buying it at 8 and I'm happy to sell it at 15, 16, my best case scenario is a 2x. And there's a world where this just kind of goes back down to like 6 or 5. And is the risk reward of you trying to get a 2x worth losing 25, 30%? What's the probability of you getting that 2x? Like, it's just questions to ask yourself. It's not the worst risk reward trade in the world, but it's not as good as it was at 4 or sub 4.
I agree with you. The only thing I'll add to that is that something like Pump, which has had like, yeah, you're right, like one insane green candle, basically. I think if it does come down and it dips down to like 5, I think the narrative around it dipping will be way more negative than something like a hyperliquid, and it makes it harder to buy because you can't ignore, because I'm saying like something like hyperliquid took something that already exists, perp trading, and put it in, like made it way more attractive to trade in their platform, basically, right? And that's and then they've created a token that then buys itself back, and it just completely incentivizes moving perps onto that platform. Whereas Pump is something that's like, well, shitcoin trading did exist, but Pump has also kind of created this category of shitcoin trading in the sense that they do, because anybody can create tokens, which you could say is more bullish. But I think it's like something where it's like people faded it for so long, and there's so much more narrative around it that if the price crashes down 40%, like meme coins that trade on it, it'll experience more volatility like that, and it'll be way easier to tell yourself a story that's like, listen, Pump had that one fucking week or two of just going nuts. Now it's done. And that's what makes it harder to trade. I'm not saying that it is done. I'm saying I'm trying to predict narrative around price action for something like a Pump that it comes back down, making it juicy. That's a juicy opportunity.
I think of like some of the hype dips that we've had, and just like maybe trying to think of what would cause like a pump dip that would be a really buyable opportunity. Like for me, one of the bigger hype dips I remember being a good buying opportunity was the like jelly exploit. If you remember that one, there was basically a party that kind of manipulated the jelly market to make, I don't remember if it was 10 or $15 million. But Hyperliquid could have just said like, we're going to not do anything, code is law, whatever. But they actually acted in a pretty centralized manner. And they did it at the end of the day to protect the HLP stakers, or like the people who are giving Hyperliquid dollars to allow Hyperliquid to market make on their own platform using the HLP vault. And in that time, hype I think went from like $15 maybe to like sub 10, or maybe it was like 20 and it went down to 10 or something. But it was a holy shit, it's not decentralized, we need to sell it. And at the end of the day, it's like they wanted to protect the people who were storing millions of dollars of value with them more than they wanted to allow a malicious actor to extract millions of dollars from their product. So I think if like something happened like that with Pump, where like maybe it's a bad stream and it forces them to, I don't know, make some decisions that overarch like all the streams, or maybe if there's some type of exploitable thing that they come in and like just any type of FUD event, I'm open to buying that dip. Like I don't care really what it is, but in general, when you have a product that you think, like I think Pump the product, just like Hype the product, is very sticky at this point. I do think the fees off shitcoin trading are more volatile than fees off perps, because just that's how shitcoins work. But I also don't think like the product itself is going to be replaced by a better product doing the same thing. I'm like happy to buy dips in that scenario, because I know at some point this product is going to shine again. Like I'm not really worried about that. I'm more like trying to buy it when other people hate it. Like last month, people hated it because it was under the ICO price. They're like, this is a bad token. Elon took too much money from us. Like, why would we buy this? And now that they did what they said they're going to do, people love it. And it's like, well, why didn't you just like make the bet that they were going to do what they said they were going to do? So it's like tough. Like you're one of the people who wasn't interested in Pump until the price went up. You really need to ask yourself, like, what are you trying to get out of this space? Because I think you're going to make more money if you're genuinely curious in how this shit works, rather than if you're coming at this from like a money or ROI angle. Like if you weren't interested about pump until the last 2 days, then like where the fuck have you been? Like in the last 2 years, this has been something that has been getting more and more adoption and going up into the right for the better part of the last 2 years. And you didn't care about it until 2 days ago because like washed YouTubers that haven't been relevant in 10 years are coming on the platform and streaming and making 50 grand. Like, I don't know what to tell you. So not to flame anybody in particular. I'm just saying like, you need to ask yourself what you're doing here. And you want to find things at least that you're curious about that other people don't like know of that are consensus right now. Like, yeah, hype, yeah, pump. But like, what are other things that you're curious about that people might not be paying as much attention to? I think you talked about Pokemon cards. We're seeing that kind of take off. I think over the last week or two, we're seeing a whole bunch of volume on these like real world asset Pokemon platforms, whether it's cards, whether it's Courtyard, whether it's Fidgetals, whether it's Deeze, whether it is a Rip.Fun. I mean, there's like well over 10 platforms, I feel like now, that are actually decent platforms for this card collecting stuff. But personally, like, this is what I'm saying. I'm not super interested in cards, so I'm not really getting super into all this because it's not where I feel like I have an edge. I'm more interested in like the cooler shit happening in the art space, the cooler shit happening in like pump space or hype space, more than I am like trying to get ahead of the curve on card collecting. Because I feel like the edge in card collecting is the people who've cared about it for years and know all these old sets and all the values of these PSA graded cards that are on the platforms, and knowing like which valuations are actually bullshit because there's only been one PSA 9 Topps Chrome Ghastly traded in the last fucking 2 years, and that price point's irrelevant versus like, you know, maybe this Charizard's traded daily and like that price is actually way more stable. Like, I think if you're somebody who knows a lot about card markets, then there's interesting things there. But if you're somebody who isn't super interested in it, it's like you just look at a couple tokens you could buy like cards, or look at these other platforms and you just don't do anything.
What do you know a lot about that made you bullish on pump? Because even though I made you a graphic, here we go. I made you a meme that just perfectly encapsulates what you were just yelling about.
Well, what I knew is that the founder
but you passed on it. But hold on, Deez, you passed on it. You passed on it. You're also slightly describing yourself.
Yeah.
Because you passed on it initially. So what made you more interested in it? And obviously the product came about, so as you can say. But I'm saying is that you're not an expert at Pokemon cards. What are you an expert in that made you bullish on pump sub 4 billion, knowing it would get here?
I'm an expert on, I feel like, humans being idiots. And when you're able to raise $1 billion at a $4 billion valuation, and then the open market can, within a month, basically buy in at a lower price than that, that feels like almost free money if you think the underlying product isn't vaporware. And we knew the underlying product isn't vaporware because we've watched them make hundreds of millions of dollars in fees over the last 2 years.
We've been using it for a long time. Yeah.
And I still didn't buy enough. But like that was the thing where like it's an obvious mispricing, where if you were able to raise $1 billion with, I don't remember how fast it filled, but it was pretty fast. It wasn't like you had all day to go give them money. It was like this thing filled pretty much
like 12 minutes. It was
12 minutes, $1 billion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, do you really think that it's going to stay under that mark? If you think it's going to stay under that mark, you have to be pretty bearish on all of like Solana and meme coin trading as a whole, right? Like, how do you paint a picture where you're bullish on Sol, you're bullish on like Bitcoin ETH, Sol, DATs, you're bullish on people trading all the beta on all these tokens, but then you're bearish on pump? Like it's really hard to paint a picture where you're bullish on everything there, but not pump. It's like, well, why wouldn't pump also do really well in this environment? I put out a shit post, which I should have taken seriously myself. It was on like August 12th or something. It was when pump was almost back at when I was telling you it was going close to the ICO line. And I was like, I'll just wait. It's going to go back down. I tweeted like, I used 3 brain cells for 3 seconds and realized that there's no reason to hold Solana over pump anymore. And then since I tweeted it, obviously pump is up like 2x and Solana's up 30%. And you know who still owns just as much Solana as they do pump? My dumbass.
Yeah.
So there's things that are so obvious, I still don't do it, even though it's like, if we're sometimes too close to it too. Like we spend all day thinking about this. If you just spent 3 seconds of your day thinking about, if I think Solana is going to go up, do I think pump's going to go up more or less? If you would just spend 3 seconds on that decision and you go the rest of your day away from the computer, you're probably going to get a better answer than if you spend 18 hours a day on Twitter trying to figure out what the arguments are for and against. Because some stuff is just that simple.
I think that that's like the biggest takeaway even from talking to you today, man, is that it's just like, and it's something that I know I have to do, and I think a lot of other people need to do. It's like sometimes you just need to walk away from Twitter and from all these new inputs and just think a little more logically of like, where, you know, zoom out for a second before you make a decision and be like, well, where's the trend going? And just trade the trend, you know, because something like that, you're right. Like pump, I had so many entries, same as you, had these limits,
we had a month.
longs and all this stuff, and they didn't hit. And I was like, well, I'll wait for it again. But it's like, why wait when you know it's going to go up, right?
The reason
and
I got
you can tell yourself all these stories
because there was one dip in particular where I was looking at Fartcoin and I was like, why the fuck do I hold Fartcoin right now? Like, Fartcoin was trading at like 50% the valuation of pump, I think, at the time, or maybe it was like 33%. And I just thought to myself, like, why the fuck am I owning Fartcoin? Like, why do I have any of this? So I just swapped like all my Fartcoin for pump. And that was like my biggest buy of pump. And then my second buy was just, hey, it's even cheaper than the time I swapped the Fartcoin for it. So I should buy some. And then I didn't keep buying it. So it's like, but when you ask yourself a question like, okay, Fartcoin is a token that came out of pump. And it's probably the biggest winner from the pump world, if not, maybe you could argue GOAT was last year before Fartcoin, but they're two similar tokens. But anyway, is the lead runner on the highest revenue producing fucking token worth 33% of what the revenue token is worth? It's all like, no way. Like in my head, pump should be worth at least 10x what Fartcoin is. And until that is like well past, I don't want Fartcoin. Maybe that just means Fartcoin needs to go down more. Maybe that doesn't mean pump needs to go up more, but like, that's how I was thinking about it, where like, why the fuck would I own Fartcoin?
It's also a logical way to think about it because for a long time, Fartcoin price might have represented the value of pump.
Yes, it was like a proxy.
Right? That's the leading horse. And now that there's like, well, you don't need the leading horse anymore. You can own the stable. It's like, well, you don't need.
You can own the stable that's buying back the stable.
Yeah, they're buying back the stable, so you don't need the. Yeah, sure, they're doing buybacks of other tokens, whatever.
Yeah, but it's like
they're buying back the stable. You know, so it's like that. Fartcoin for a long time, I think, was the token. Now we can look back at it thinking that way, and I think the big takeaway is to try and think that way going forward as well.
Yeah,
right.
So
just like you know, how do you think forward on those equations? Right.
And like for me, it's trying to identify, are there any of these streamer tokens right now that I think could, you know, go up to 250, 500 mil? If I think there's a world where pump is, you know, well, right now it's 8, but let's just say it's 10. Like I could easily see a streamer token being worth 500 million or 250 million if pump is at 10. So then I'm trying to think, okay, well, which one of these tokens that exist right now have the actual like drive, dedication, and discipline to actually do this every day and not just do the like flash in a pan. Hey, I was here for a week or a day, made my fees and I'm gone. And is there any, you know, good risk reward? Because in my head, 99% of all these pump streamer tokens are going at 0. So it's hard. It's like a hard bet to make to find that one that could go up like that. But it wouldn't surprise me if in a month there's a streamer token, you know, 100 to 250 mil. I just don't know what it looks like. And I don't think it's going to be any crypto native shit. It's going to be some normie thing that we don't, like, it's not going to be Thread Guy or Ansem or somebody like that. Like it's going to be something, in my opinion, from outside the space that does it.
I agree with you. Maybe when that happens, Deez, when you get the inkling of what that token might be, you hit me up. You get your ass right back here.
I mean, I told you, like, the only one I have right now is Kind, but I don't know if that's it. And it's at 20 million, so I don't want to.
Yeah, it's a great idea. It's fantastic, but I don't know. If it has that stickiness. It's good. It's very good, but I don't know if it has to be something that has that like kind of.
Yeah, and ideally, I want to look for like somebody who is doing this like maybe like day one and is underlooked, or like I want to look at it from like a nerd or like a geek angle and like try to find one of the early people who's doing something unique. I don't want to like bet on the League of Legends streamer from 10 years ago who just came over. Like I want to find somebody who's doing something hopefully from like the bottom up, either in this space or adjacent to it, or at least like I feel like owning whatever niche they're in. Like I don't want to bet on the people who are just like, oh man, I watched that dude's Halo 2 montage 16 years ago and now I'm going to buy his token because he's 40 and needs money. Like that's not the type of thing. No offense to any of those guys. I would
no, but it has to be new, something kind of new and sticky. It has to be something kind of just different. In the same way that like the fart coin and the goats, it was like, okay, this is different. Like the AI launched this token. Like that's kind of special, right?
Yeah, and in the end, it was like, well, the AI kind of like didn't really launch the token. People launched it for the AI, but because the AI,
but whatever. But it was still had this kind of like, oh, we've done something new here. You know what I mean? It was like this is a new idea around this stuff, and that kid started like a whole movement, right? So
yeah, and one thing too, I'll note is just like my biggest wins in this space are always, or almost all of them, have been me buying something that is very cheap, maybe free, and then ignored for like months. It's not like I make a lot of my money buying something and selling it in a day. It's like I normally find something I think is nerdy, geeky, cool. It's almost free. I buy it and hold on to it, sometimes forget about it. And then like months down the line, it's like, oh, other people thought that was nerdy and cool too now, and there's value there. So I haven't seen anything like too much like that recently. Like the nerdy cool stuff I feel like I see is like in art, but it doesn't have any attention on it right now, right? Like the art space is just kind of, I don't want to say forgotten about, because there's definitely like a core group of couple thousand people maybe who really care about it, but like every other thing I'm in is mostly not what I would describe as like nerdy, cool, like nerdy, geeky, cheap, ignored. Most of the stuff is like some amount of hype to it. No pun intended.
I like it.
So I don't expect to make big ROIs on this stuff, because
it's okay. But you make the smart trades until you find the ape trade, right? Like that's just kind of what it is, you know?
Yeah. And if you just find a couple of these trades a year where you're able to put whatever significant size is for you, 100 grand, 500 grand, $1 million, 10 grand, I don't care. And you double, triple, quadruple, 5x it, like that's fucking amazing. Like you don't need to find one every day. It's like if you find one idea like that every 3 months, that's fucking, that's way better than anything else you can find outside of here, I feel like, unless you're very knowledgeable and have a really good network of whatever niche you're operating in.
Deez, I'm going to stop you there, man. This has been a fantastic pod. We've gone way over time.
Oh, we can keep going for sure too.
The format of this pod is like the time that we've spoken. But dude, I'm gonna have to have you back for another episode, man. There's so many things I feel like we could still talk about. So maybe we'll do one next month when OpenSea comes out. We could talk NFTs, because clearly that's something still close to your heart. But
yeah, I still love and care deeply about NFTs. I don't trade them nearly as much, at least not like volume wise. I kind of just try to keep profits from other trades and buy stuff I like and hold on to it. But definitely down to talk OpenSea. We have I think a big airdrop to look forward to. I've paid them hundreds of thousands of dollars in fees, so I'm hoping that hopefully I get tens of thousands of dollars back for my hundreds of thousands of dollars I gave them.
Well, we'll have to have you back maybe once we have details about their token and their token launches. Maybe we'll get you back to see if we're doing a pump or if we're doing something different on it. So maybe that's another one to
we'll see. Well, for me right now, I am in I'm gonna dump it immediately. But if they if they have some type of plan to use revenue to support their token, then maybe I'll change my opinion. But yeah, as is where I'm standing right now, it's probably going to be a liquidity event for me.
Deez, great to chat, man.
It was nice talking to you. Shout out to everyone who listened all the way through. And if you, I'll plug something here and I'll shut up. But if you have no idea who I am or why anything I say is important, number one, nothing I say is important. Number two, if you want to learn more, go to twitter.com/Deez.
Oh, the self-plug.
The
self-plug.
The pinned tweet is the longest thing I've ever wrote in my life. It's like 9,000 words.
It's good. Like, I like it, man. I read that. I think it's nice.
It's my entire story. from like
Oh,
where
we
I
like
grew
it. I
up
think it's nice.
to where I was 2 years ago and how I have any type of platform. So if you're,
Deez is a fantastic follow, and that's why I wanted to have you on the show, man.
but that's
and
the only
I
thing I have to
highly-
plug, because I wrote that a couple years ago so I could just show
Mm.
people like, hey, if you care who the fuck I am, I don't really want to talk about this again, but I'm gonna put it right here and you can read it. So it's been good.
Thanks, Deez.
Thanks for having me.
Want updates from the trenches alongside the tokens we're trading? Sub to our channel, then join the Milk Road Degen and Degen Pro newsletters. This show's for educational purposes only. Nothing we say is financial advice. Investing is risky. Never invest more than you can afford to lose.